Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Sports Impact on your TV. We have our first two guests, our panelists, joining us for this discussion session. The first 20-minute segment, we have Stacey Moore from the Peterborough Ice Cats and a regular on Mercier and Crew, an extra 90.5. If people will hear your voice there, they'll now be familiar with your face. And Chad Cavanagh from the Gaskell Cup, something that the community is certainly missing out on at this point in time, and one of the many events that have been canceled. Myself, Dan Malta, flanked by Scotty Arnold here on my left. Now, we'll go to you first, Stacey. I've heard you talking on Jordan's show so many times about how valuable sports is and activity and just being active. First of all, how's that impacting you and your life right now?
Well, I guess in a lot of ways, because I'm usually out in the community teaching fitness classes. I teach at Full Tilt. I run my own classes at Hybrid Fitness as well. And that's impacted me just not being out and being as active. However, I found ways to mitigate that. And I've been doing live videos on Facebook every morning at 9:30 with my two daughters and just finding a way to help people stay active and healthy. And so we get up and we do a little 3-circuit workout, and we broadcast that out so that people can join us, and it's live on my Facebook page. So we've been finding ways to get around the scenario.
And Chad, I'd imagine it's been difficult when a tournament that you put together to honor your close friend is now something that people don't get to take part in. When it came down to it, how hard was that?
It was really disappointing. Obviously, the day we decided on last Friday, it ended up like 2 hours later, the rink shut down anyways. But for our whole crew, and I know, Dan O'Toole and Steve Webb, they were dealing with the same thing. Like Dan was dealing with it at TSN, the same sort of the way it was going. And Steve is obviously one of the head guys of the NHLPA, and they were just canceling the season. So it was sort of a lot on those guys all at once. And for me, it was just the whole group of people. It was quite disappointing, but again, it was real time. It's real times right now, so we had to sort of obey and do the right thing, and I think we did the right thing.
You guys certainly did the right thing, and it's a tough decision. It's a pretty fresh decision. Have you guys talked about alternative plans moving forward, or was it just the step to cancel it and that's it?
We thought about where you would go with this, but with everything happening right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to even happen. And I think we're just going to replan for next year. We're keeping Danny and Steve on as the captains, and we're going to replay like this year never even happened personally. And it's just going to be one of those things where we're going to forget about it, move on. And the Gaskell family was very supportive of it. They were obviously quite sad, the kids and Ange themselves, when I spoke to them. But again, it's a major part of our community. I know, with the Ice Cats and the PHA and the AAA and all the different organizations all love being part of it. So it's pretty cool. It brings everyone under one umbrella, and unfortunately we're going to miss that this year, but better to have everyone's health first. And
the Ice Cats, obviously, like, it's just in terms of the entire hockey community, I'm guessing you can speak pretty much for everybody. Nobody can play right now. It was a good year for Ice Cats hockey. Everything's going smoothly, and that just like with the Peterborough Pete, it's a tough scenario. How have people been handling that?
I think everyone's been taking it in stride. It's not something that any of us can control. It's totally out of our control altogether. We were waiting from directives from the OWHA, and we had a lot of questions at the beginning around what might happen. And as soon as that came out, we just have done our best to just get the information to all of our members and make sure that they're up to date. So we have a Facebook page. We've been putting information on our website. I've been emailing coaches and managers, and then we just went through rounds of interviews for next year's coaches as well. So just really making sure that everyone's informed. But it's been challenging. I mean, it's hard on the girls, and many of the teams were prepped for Lower Lakes Championships, which is the last weekend in March, and then they would have been heading into provincial championships the first weekend in April. So for them, a lot of hard work went into the season and practices and games and tournaments, and all of a sudden all of that was taken away. And I know as soon as I told my daughter, she was very upset around how she wouldn't be able to see her teammates and communicate with them and be on the ice, and what might this mean for next year. And when you're talking to young girls who have aspirations and dreams, it's a big challenge. But I think the biggest message that we can have is that this is something that we're all living through, and we're all finding our way. And as parents, I think that we have to be role models around how we set the tone and how we're dealing with things, and it's not about panic. But hockey will resume, and I'm sure we'll get back to it. All sports in general. I also coach for the Peterborough Power Organization, and our championships for provincials are in the middle of April, but I probably am assuming that probably won't happen as well. So it's just really kind of living as we go, and Tryouts have been postponed until we don't know when. So as soon as that comes back, of course, we'll do everything that we can to organize and work with the city and make sure, hopefully, we have ice time where we can get it.
How does collecting payments work? I don't know if people are still paying right now, if those payments all stopped, if you're on the hook for jerseys, insurance costs, everything like that. And in terms of the money that you'd already put out to the city in terms of renting ice, is that all refunded? How does that work for the people that are directly affected?
Well, we were really lucky. We got on the phone as soon as we knew, and I was talking with Kelly Postavad at the city. The city's been great with working with us around ice rentals, so the money was refunded for ice that we didn't use, so that was of course helpful. And as far as team fees, I mean, I think we're in a situation, every team manages their own budget, so now provincial championships, those fees, they didn't happen, so that's managed within each team. And then as far as jerseys, it's interesting that you brought that up. We just literally had a meeting at 5 p.m. where we were starting to look at jerseys for next year. We need to place orders. We just went through the process of putting our contract out for tender, and Fontaine Source for Sports is now going to be our provider. So we've been working with them on finding new jersey looks and what that's going to be looking like. And now we don't know, though, if we can really order those right away because we don't have tryouts in the spring, which would have happened starting April 14th. So we might have to wait and order those if it's going to be fall, say, for example, for those tryouts. We may be waiting a little while for the jerseys to come in before the girls have them on their backs.
And Chad, for Gaskell Cup, obviously this is a huge fundraiser for you guys. Does that set you guys back, or are you guys able to sustain? I know you guys raise funds for certain things. You guys built that room. That was your first goal. Does that hinder your progress now that this is not going?
Yeah, we signed a 3-year deal with basically the Greater Family Health team in PACA, which basically is on concussions, and obviously with Ange Gaskell's family charity as well. And basically it's $40,000 a year right now, and which we always donate. It's sort of a ritual. We do it, and the guy we hired, Brad Anderson, that's been doing a great job in our community right now in concussion awareness and dealing with all sports, hockey, soccer, lacrosse, everything. That hinders that a lot, I think. To what extent, we're not quite sure. But yeah, that $40,000 is a lot, goes a long way, and this community is super awesome to donate it yearly. And that was a big part of the Gaskell Cup, was the funding part. So again, we got to continue to find other ways. I'm not sure if we'll try something in the summer to help fund Brad and keep his cool work going. But we're just going to keep trying. So yeah, it does affect us big time, and it's not anything anybody wanted, but as Stacey and you guys have all elaborated on, it's for the well-being of everybody.
Now, Stacey, she talked about her kids and some of the Ice Cats. They've turned it into a positive, making some videos in the morning. I know you've got little kids that are sort of, might not be sure of what's going on exactly right now, but how are they taking it? They're just at home.
Yeah, I said to Stacey, and we were a little bit the opposite. Like, my kids have no idea. They're loving life. They're so young. I have a 5- and 7-year-old that are literally, my son is hockey hungry, and my daughter just loves being a little girl and enjoys her everyday arts and crafts learning, enjoys it. And, so they're still doing the same thing. Like, he's outside every day playing. And obviously, we're trying to tell him not to be near a lot of people. So he still plays. They still have a road hockey game going. They're quite distances. They pass the ball. And our street's still doing fun things that are outside that are from a distance. But yeah, it's just different. They're March break. Ask my wife that in a couple of days, and it'll be a different scenario. But they're just not quite aware enough. We've tried to explain to them that there's a little flu going around the schools and in the world right now, and we're trying to all hunker down and be a family and stay safe. And they don't get it, but you know what? It's still pretty cool. They understand that we're just here we're here to get everyone better and be safe. And so yeah, it's different, but I'm enjoying it.
The parks and trails, you mentioned staying active, and I was out just going about and even walking your dog. You're running into way more dogs, you're running into way more people, but what the safe point for people when they're getting out there, where do you think that lies? And I know we're getting daily updates from the Prime Minister, from the Health Minister. Everybody is letting us know, but for you, do you make adjustments to it or take it verbatim on what you're being told to do?
Well, I think that you can go down the rabbit hole of scare tactics and maybe some panic. And I think that the virus is spread just as quickly potentially as panic and fear spreads. So it's a matter of, I think, digesting the information and then making an informed decision. And you can look at cases like what's happened in Italy, and they're on a total lockdown. And so there have been a lot of information videos and that sort of thing where people are saying, I wish I knew this 10 days ago, and that might be where we're at right now. So I think it is important to have caution and to err on the side of caution. I went for a walk yesterday, and we did practice our social distancing, but at times I was like, don't get close to your friends. And it's just an odd scenario for us, but I think it's important to get outside, to be active, to get fresh air, to go for runs, to go for walks, to walk your dog. You have to stay active and moving, because otherwise you're going to get into a state where your mental health is also going to suffer. So I think we have to be mindful of that, and to stay active, healthy, eat proper foods, get enough sleep. All of those things are things we should be doing anyway, and maybe it's going to bring it all to the forefront where we're just going to be a little bit more aware of our overall health in general.
And when the novelty does, there is a novelty to it. To everybody that's staying home and they've stockpiled on snacks, or they're binge watching a new TV show, that's real. That's how people are acting right now. In a week or so, you mentioned, I wish we knew this 10 days from now, but 10 days from now, where do you guys see this being? Whether it be your urge to go for a skate, or your urge to go out and play basketball somewhere, can you see where you're going to be? Can you project that?
I hope it's figured itself out, and we're on the spiral up for all of us, for our sake, but I really can't yet. I think you just pray for everybody, elderly, young, our age, everywhere, and just at the end of the day, I wouldn't have predicted this would have happened last Friday, to be quite honest with you. And what's transpired from the business world, from my personal world, from all the hockey organizations, all the sporting world, doesn't even matter who it was. And there's a lot more to life than just the sports or canceling of things. It's just at the end of the day, just making sure that you do the right thing and follow protocols, and you hope for the best for everybody, I think.
Take on that?
I would agree. I don't think we have a magic ball that we can shake up and say what's going to happen in 10 days. We don't have that. I look at cases like Alberta that have closed down schools until September, and do I think we'll be back in a couple of weeks and everything will be just normal? I don't know that that's going to be the case. And I think it's a matter of just pulling together as human beings and being supportive and uplifting as best we can. And I think that what you're going to find is humanity will probably rise to the top. It's going to be a good thing. People are going to come together in new ways. There's so much technology now, and if we do have to have more isolation, we can build community in a different way.
And now when you do put yourself in the shoes of however old your kids might be, say you're 12-year-old Stacey Moore, and you find out that you're not playing basketball anymore, you're not playing hockey anymore, can you imagine attempting to cope with that?
No, I would be devastated and crushed. I totally understand. It would be very difficult, and I think I have my parent hat on, but absolutely, that's all I wanted to do when I was that age. I wanted to play sports. I was heavily involved, and so the impact that it does have is pretty massive. But at home today, we had the ladders out that I used for coaching, and my daughter was literally in my living room pounding a basketball. We were videotaping it and posting it on Instagram so our coach could see it. I think there's different ways that we can handle this as well. And outdoor hockey sticks and nets and all of those things. I mean, get outside. It's almost like we're going back to when we were young.
Absolutely.
And we had to play outside, or we had to do different things. We weren't so organized and on the go. And maybe it's going to bring us a little bit more back to that.
Well, going back to our younger selves, if we went back to our teenage years, a young Chad Cavanagh would be playing in the OHL. If you were playing for the Petes right now, a great season, guys like Nick Robertson are on everyone's radar, and if you were told that your season had to end, how would you react right now? Because I mean, this is quite a year for Peterborough.
Honestly, I think it would be devastating. Quite to all these young guys and girls and even you name it. It's when you take something away like that they love doing daily. I know when your season comes to an end, you're like, oh, I miss doing that daily. You had a routine. You went to practice. You hung out with your teammates. Just I think the whole thing was not necessarily the whole season, but I think they're teammates at the end of the day. Like those guys and girls and whoever, when you go to the rink, that's sort of your family, and you're so used to being a part of that. Like you just don't want it to end. And especially when they're having a season like the Petes are having, and Robertson with his year. I know he'll rebound. He's obviously an unbelievable player, and he's going to do this again. That's no worries, I don't think at all. But still, it doesn't make it any easier on any guy. So if, in that sense, I really feel for those guys a lot. They've had a wonderful year. The coaching staff put a lot of time in. The organization itself did a great job. I feel bad for the fans that can't watch those amazing players this week. Starting the playoffs, it's a fun time for this city, and unfortunately, I put my hat back on, a long, long time ago. Not to date myself, but it would have been, for anyone, it would be devastating.
The scholarship factor, or for kids who are playing in minor sports still, or playing Tier 2 Junior A, something like that, in basketball, volleyball, anywhere. Do you have any insight on that, and kids who are looking for NCAA scholarships, or even looking forwards to a Canadian university next year? Do you know where that lies for players and kids who are being scouted right now?
Well, I've been in talks with our midget AA coach, Dave Roach, and we've been talking a little bit about that. And I think, at this point, hopefully portfolios were built and all of that background information was gathered. I know that there's lots of different tools and online resources that players can now use to be able to get that out to coaches. And I think that the university coaches, whether that be at the NCAA level or at U Sports, they're going to be considerate of the fact that everyone is in the same boat. And so I know that scouting has happened, even talking to the Queen's basketball coach. I'm in contact. I played there as an athlete myself, and they were on scouting trips prior to this happening, of course. So I think they're aware of the players that they want to be in contact with, and now it's a matter of the players probably reaching out to some of those prospective coaches as well, and just letting them know that they're very keen, they're very interested, and they're passionate about the game that they play. So those connections will still be made, I'm sure, and I'm sure that there will also be a lot of leeway for the fact that people are not on the ice, they're not on the court right now, but everyone's in the same position.
Yeah.
And Stacey, just while we still have you here, Dan, you mentioned mental health, very important for exercise. With the gyms being closed, you talked about you're doing some stuff online, and I don't think a lot of people realize that exercise is good for your mind. A lot of people do it just to get buff like me, but how can we tune in tomorrow or the rest of the days here to tune into one of your classes? Because I think it's on Facebook, you're saying, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm actually just broadcasting right on my feed on Facebook. So it's Stacey Moore on Facebook. You can find me and add me as a friend or follow me, and then it's all live. So it's 9:30. I do it each day, and I ask that you post a selfie after you've finished doing the workout, and I've seen a lot of people doing it with their kids, which just totally warms my heart, because the more that we can get families moving together, I think the better off we'll all be, and it will help with things like mental health and just people staying positive during this time, because it can be so easy to get down.
That's so important. I love that you're doing that.
Thank you very much.
And we will have more talk about mental health and physical fitness. Josh Gillum, the trainer for the Peterborough Petes, coming up in the next segment with Graham Elliott from Extra 90.5 and Challenger Baseball. And something for Graham, an interesting look. He has special needs athletes that he has to deal with, so a totally different realm to consider in that regard in terms of explaining that to them. And when you do see kids, and again, not being able to get out there, we're going to keep harping on this because it is the real issue, is probably kids who are having a hard time comprehending this. And now when you do see that in terms of mental health going another step further, the parents that are associated with the Challenger baseball team, what challenge do you envision that being?
Well, I think it's a matter of finding ways that they can connect with one another. And I mentioned even things like online social media, technology like Zoom. I mean, even if you can't get together with teammates, or parents are looking for supports to be able to connect their kids, and it could be in the same situation with the Challenger baseball, right? I even mentioned to some of our coaches, you can use a tool like Zoom, which is a free app, and it actually looks like the Brady Bunch. Your face picks up and you can see all of the faces online at the same time. And something like that to even reconnect teams, bring them back together. We couldn't have year-end parties, so to be able to say, hey, just join on this social kind of connected way, and we can talk and we can share in things that maybe you're frustrated with, things that are challenging, and parents can come together with different ideas. I think there's a lot of ways, like I said, that we can tap into the resources, and it's a good thing that we live in 2020. Today's the first day of spring. Today's in a new era as far as being 2020, and we have so much at our fingertips that we can be able to resource. It's just a matter of finding the positives rather than some of the negatives that are out there.
And Chad, just get your final thoughts as well before we move on to the next segment with Josh and Graham.
Yeah, I think I got whatever Stacey said there. She's bang on with everything. I think just doing stuff that sometimes you don't do enough. I said for me it was one night just slowing down, and we just went for a walk with my daughter, and I'm like, you're always running around the house and running out to practices and running to skills, and I'm like, I don't get a chance to do this much. So as I said to Stacey back there, I'm like, it's just been a sort of bit of a cool experience for me, humbling. You know, it brings you sort of back to the old days, which we all love doing, right? So I think it just connect, enjoy it, and you know, try not to stress and stay healthy.
That's exactly what I think everyone's doing right now, is just being patient, waiting back, and hopefully we'll get through this sooner than later. But things that you guys are doing in the community will always be there, and once this blows through, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again at the rinks and the fields and everywhere that we always run into you. It's been pretty weird. This last week has felt like a month, and I can't wait to get back doing stuff. But it'll start tomorrow with your class.
There you go. Can't wait to see you live.
I did have one positive thing we want to throw from Hope in the Gaskell Cup is we're offering a Steve Bonador bursary again this year for $5,000. And anybody that's watching tonight or knows somebody that suffered a concussion and is going to be a first-time student going into university, please contact Laura Kennedy or myself off the show, and we can ensure that we get you into that ballot part.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing that still good things coming from sport.
Yes,
right? So we've got a positive coming up in the show as well. We'll be giving away a car for the Peterborough District Sports Hall of Fame and Russell Toyota, so that's a positive. There are also 10 $100 winners as a part of that, and a winner of a $1,000 travel voucher. Thanks. So we're trying to keep sports fun. We're trying to bring some of the good things. You're missing what you're seeing on TV, but there are sports available in your community, whether it be in the parks, in the playgrounds, everywhere, just a walking track, anywhere. You can find some positives, as Stacey and Chad just let us know. Stick around. On the other side, we'll have Graham Elliott and Josh Gillum to keep the conversation going. You're watching COVID-19 Local Sports Impact on your TV.